much for logging in. We are waiting for the others to join in. There's a huge registration. We will start off sharp at 5 p.m. So please be with us. We are requesting you to keep yourselves muted at all times during the program and your videos switched off for better reception to make your experience better. Thank you.
Hello, SCBM. Hello, SCBM.
Tapanda.
এই সৌরভ স্যার আছেন আর আমাদের আরো অনিন্দিতা ম্যাম আছে, ওরা ইন করতে পারছে না, তাদেরকে ইন করতে বলছে ওনার মেসেজে, একটু দেখবেন প্লিজ।
I think our host is doing this part. I'm sure he's admitting everyone in the waiting room. I can see a lot of people joining us this evening and a lot more to come. I request everyone to please switch off their videos. A very good evening to all. We are waiting for the national webinar to start. We will begin shortly, just 10 minutes more to go, right at 5 p.m. It is really wonderful to have so many of you with us. Requesting all of you to give us, please wait patiently for the program to begin. And if possible, please keep yourselves muted at all times, your videos switched off for a better reception, for better experience. Very good evening to everyone. It is indeed a pleasure to have all of you with us today. We will begin shortly in just a few more minutes. We are just waiting for all the participants to join in. We are extremely glad because one of our speakers are already with us. Good evening, sir. It is such a pleasure to have you today with us. We are just waiting a few more minutes and then we'll start off with the program sharp at 5 p.m. We have a wonderful program lined up today. We are just waiting for all the participants to join in. It's indeed a pleasure to have so many participants here today with us. A very good evening to everyone. Thank you so much for joining in today. We'll just begin in 5 minutes. It's a pleasure. We have our speakers with us. We have we have so many participants, students, teachers, and so many more people who are interested in this national webinar organized by the Department of Education and the Internal Quality Assurance Cell of Maharani Kashishwari College. Just 5 more minutes to go. We are waiting for all the participants to log in. A very good evening to everyone. It is indeed a pleasure to see so many participants logging in continuously, and we also have so many more waiting. We will begin shortly, just a few more minutes. It feels really wonderful to see so many people in today's national webinar. And we from the Maharani Kashishwari College team is extremely grateful to all of you for sparing valuable time to be with us. We already have our speakers on board. We have so many participants. We will just begin in a few minutes. Thank you. A very good evening to everyone. We will begin shortly. We are almost ready to go. We are having so many people logging in continuously, so many in the waiting room, so many already with us. It's indeed a pleasure to have so many of you with us today. Just a reminder, please keep yourselves muted at all times during the webinar. And also, please, I request you to keep your videos switched off for a better reception, for a better experience of the entire program. Very good evening to everyone. We are about to begin. There are many people in the waiting room, just waiting for them to enter our national webinar. And I think we are almost good to go. We are just waiting for a few more people to just log in. A few of them are in the waiting room, waiting to join in. For those who are already in, it is really wonderful to see so many of you with us today. We have one of our speakers with us. We have already given him an informal welcome as of now. Dr. Basantia is here with us. I hope he can hear us. Yes, sir. I'm sure you can hear us. It's really a pleasure having you with us. Yes, and all the others, so many teachers from different colleges, different universities, so many others, so many students also as well, which obviously gives us encouragement to organize such webinars. I think this is the 9th in the series of webinars that the Maharani Kashishwari College team has organized. It has been a wonderful journey doing this. And we will shortly begin. In fact, we have people from all over the world, from Brazil, from America, from other places as well. India, of course, our very own motherland. So we are just waiting for them. They are sending us messages to just hold on for a little while. We are all ready to go. So thank you so much for your patience. The national webinar today has been organized by the Department of Education and the Internal Quality Assurance Cell. The members of that cell Obviously, it is based on a very, very relevant topic, and we are shortly going to discuss on that. I'm sure it is going to be a big help for all who have joined in, and your feedback will also be very, very important for all of us here who are there in the organizing committee. For those who do not already know, we are streaming live on YouTube as well. So for people who could not log in, they can obviously see the live streaming on YouTube. And obviously the recordings will also be available later on. But obviously the experience to have to be present in the national webinar virtually, of course, is unique. So I think stay logged in for a few more minutes before we begin. We are just about to begin. Those who have joined in late, I have already introduced our speaker, Dr. Tapan Basantia from the University of South Bihar. And I have welcomed him informally, of course, with us. So welcome to this national webinar. It's an immense pleasure to have you with us and all the participants as well. We will be having Professor Dhrubajyoti Chattopadhyay, we obviously know him, most of us know him, the Vice Chancellor of the University, Sister Nivedita University, who would be joining us shortly. So we have two very eminent speakers with us today who would be talking about the balance between reality and virtuality, the need of the hour, how virtuality has taken over and how reality has completely changed. We are gaining knowledge, yes. We are obviously having webinars, we are having so many discussions, but on a virtual platform. So how it is important, why it is important, and what is the future? I'm sure we will be much enriched after this webinar gets over. So a few more minutes as we wait for our speaker, the second speaker, and some of the participants to join in. We regret the 12-minute delay in the program. We were about to begin at 5 p.m., but obviously, I'm sure, as all of you understand, there are people requesting us to wait a little for them to join in. But obviously, we cannot wait much longer. We have the departmental head of the Department of Education, Dr. Tapan Chand. We have Dr. Sayanti Bhowmik, we have Dr. Monideepa Mitro, and a lot of young people of the department as well. Tapan Chand also happens to be the IQAC convener, and he's also there with us. I think we are all ready now. I will hand over the proceedings formally to Dr. Sayanti Bhowmik, an assistant professor in the Department of Education and the convener, one of the conveners of this national webinar. I request Dr. Sayanti Bhowmik to please take over.
Good evening, respected Principal Madam, resource persons, colleagues, and my dear students. Welcome to the webinar titled Reality to Virtuality, a Paradigm Shift in Education, conducted by the IQAC Cell and the Department of Education, Maharani Kashishwari College. I now request my colleague, Dr. Anindita Roy Chakraborty, convener of the Seminar and Study Circle Committee, to deliver the welcome address.
Namaste and a very, very good evening to everyone. You've been hearing my voice for quite some time now, but now for the formal welcome, of course. Uh, the world has been hit by a pandemic, the pandemic which is spreading disease, a pandemic which is spreading fear, uncertainty, has changed reality into virtuality. But where there is fear, there has to be hope. And where there is uncertainty, I'm sure there is assurance. And where there is virtuality, someday there will surely be reality. The worst hit probably is the education system, the students, the teachers, the future. It's all in under a big question mark. To put it in the terms of Sydney Harris, I think it's a very beautiful thought which I am wanting to share with all of you. The whole purpose of education is to turn mirrors into windows. Wow, what a lovely thought. And I think we are here today, we've gathered here today to do just that. In fact, although there has been a shift in the paradigm from reality to virtuality, there has been a shift in everything that we do in our daily life, a change in our schedule. But I'm sure there is a way out. And to guide us through this way out, we have two eminent speakers, very, very famous speakers here today with us. And we are extremely honored and we are extremely pleased to have them here with us today. As I have informally welcomed him, but this is the formal round, I said. I extend a very, very warm welcome from the Department of Education, from the IQAC, Internal Quality Assurance Cell, and obviously from the entire team of Maharani Kashishwari College. A warm welcome to Dr. Tapan Basantia from the department. He's an associate professor from the Department of Teacher Education of Central University of South Bihar, Gaya, Bihar. And obviously, we will have Professor Dhrupad Jyoti Chattopadhyay, the Vice Chancellor of Sister Nivedita University of Bengal. They are both very, very popular faces, very well known. And I'm sure after this webinar, national webinar, we are going to be so much more enriched about the about the virtuality, and we will definitely change from certain uncertainty to certainty. I also welcome all the participants who are here with us today and those who will be joining in later, those who are on YouTube and who are streaming on YouTube. So without any further delay, because we are already running a little late, I request our inspiration for all programs, all webinars, as I signed in the series of webinars, Dr. Shima Chakraborty. Ma'am, over to you for the formal inaugural address. Thank you so much. I request, ma'am. Yes.
Unfortunately,
Yes,
we
ma'am.
can't
Yes,
seem
ma'am.
to locate Madam right now. I will pass on the proceedings. I will now request our coordinator, IQAC coordinator and convener of this webinar, Dr. Tapan Chad, to address the gathering.
Okay. Am I audible? Madam, am I audible? Sayanti madam, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Yes. May I proceed? Okay. Good evening. Good evening to all. Respected principal madam, esteemed resource persons, learned scholar, participants, faculty members, students, and other dignitaries of this national webinar. First of all, on behalf of the Internal Quality Assurance Cell of the Maharani Kasishwari College, I welcome you all to the present webinar. Friends, the great impact of information and communication technology on education can be considered as one of the achievements of 21st century. Technologies in fresh years has been amalgamated as tools to support learning. Inventions and realization of new technology have been improved teaching learning by adding various augmentations, substitutions, or blending of new pedagogical approaches. In an age where we are surrounded by information, the concept of world classroom is no more the ideal option to propagate education everywhere. And at the same time, in this globalization era, we should change and modify our traditional ideas and patterns to create and implement new inventions and applications with a greater speed, without which we might be discarded by other fellows in this area. This is true in case of disseminating education in this era of information and communication technology revolution and changing demands of the modern society also. Keeping the changes in our mind regarding the teaching learning process, both in traditional mode and online mode, the institution urgently feel the necessity of holding the webinar, which will highlight the pros and cons of both systems in detail. The present webinar is an effort in this direction, which will also focus on the theory of transformation or paradigm shift from traditional classroom teaching to the virtual classroom teaching. The Internal Quality Assurance Cell, in collaboration with the Education Department of Maharani Kasishwari College, jointly took the responsibility in organizing today's national webinar on the heading Reality to Virtuality, a paradigm shift in education. Two esteemed resource persons are with us. Professor Dr. Dhrubajyoti Chattopadhyay, Vice Chancellor, Sister Nivedita University, West Bengal, and Dr. Tapan Basantia, Associate Professor of Education, Department of Teacher Education, Central University of South Bihar, Gaya. Sir, I welcome you both to this webinar. Both resource persons will discuss and enlighten us on different points of their concern, keeping in touch with the present day topic of the webinar. The effort of the Internal Quality Assurance Cell and the Department of Education would be fruitful with the cooperation from all participants, faculty members, and technical assistants altogether. I am thankful to the principal of this college, Dr. Seema Chakraborty, and all faculty members of the Department of Education for their initiative to organize this webinar. I am hopeful and wishing a grand success of the present webinar. Thank you all.
Thank you, PKC sir. I now request the principal of Maharani Kasishwari College, Dr. Seema Chakraborty, to say a few words. We seem to be facing some slight technical difficulties. I request my colleague, Dr. Anindita Chakraborty, to kindly carry on with the proceedings. Anindita, madam, kindly carry on with the proceedings. Principal, madam, we seem to have some technical difficulties with her. Please carry on. Apparently, we are still...
Yes, I'm sorry, there was a bit of a problem with the mic. Am I audible?
Yes,
yes, madam.
Yes.
Yes, madam.
I request our principal, I think she has joined in. I request Dr. Shima Chakraborty, our beloved principal, our inspiration for all webinars, to please give the formal inaugural address.
Thank you all. Yes, I am sorry for the delay. Actually, there are two addresses. Hello? Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
I am audible, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. I welcome Professor Virtuality Chattopadhyay and Dr. Tapan Basantia, right? Yes, yes, for joining in this beautiful evening. And today's topic, our education department has decided that is very much proper for the present time. Actually, as time goes and number of students increases, automatically we need something, some arrangement like this, because with large number of students, big classrooms, bigger and bigger, one time it becomes very much difficult to arrange for. And by this virtual education system, one teacher or a group of teachers can communicate with enormous number of students from a single platform. And there are other facilities also that the students won't have to come to the college or school by vehicles, and naturally no pollution. This is one byproduct of this system. And actually the teacher can teach as long as he or she wants to, because there is the next class in the same room will not wait for. And since the matter, the class time, during the whole time, the class can be recorded. The student can go through it as many number of times as he or she needs. So naturally, as we see that this is a very useful process as days goes. And in today's seminar, we have with us two excellent speakers and teachers with us. And I hope that everybody, all the students and teachers and others who are joining this webinar, they will enjoy it. We all will enjoy it. And Sir Dhruvajyoti sir, we are meeting after a long time. How are you? Yes, how are you? There was some problem in the connection initially. Anyway, we will enjoy everything. And only thing missing, yes, only thing missing in this virtual classroom is that the physical contact. Otherwise, even an operation, a medical operation can also be taught very well, because during operation, if these students can observe it vividly from their places, they can learn a lot. Only thing is, by own hand to do, we need the laboratory. Otherwise, the theoretical classes can be conducted like this very well, and also practical classes means before starting by one's own hand, it will be a very excellent teaching. And we we are facing so many other problems for so many classrooms, cleaning and preparing, that our students will sit on his or her chair in his room and will access all teaching. The materials will be accessible to enormous number of students, and we hope that this will be by this application of technological education, we will be able to teach more and more students. And actually, we everybody should take the positive parts of any of any process, and we will be looking for this also. Thank you, our two sirs, and I should thank our team in my college, in our college, who are working a lot to arrange for this webinar. And I also thank very much Sir Dhruv Chattopadhyay and Dr. Tapan Basantia for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you, madam, for your constant inspiration and for encouraging us in our endeavors. I now request my colleague, Dr. Ananta Roy Chakraborty, to take over the proceedings.
A very good evening again. It's an immense pleasure to have Sir, I would call him Sir, obviously, Professor Dhruv Chattopadhyay with us, the Vice Chancellor of Sister Nivedita University. Sir, we welcome you to this national webinar today, and I request Dr. Sayanti Bhowmik to take over.
Thank you, Anita. Since the 19th century, the world has witnessed an enormous progress in science and technology that has changed almost all aspects of our lives. Education, however, has been relatively insulated from its effects, as there was hardly any change visible in the traditional classrooms. But from the last decade of the 20th century, a silent revolution began to take place when modern versions of distance learning merged with technology, information, and pedagogy to give birth to online teaching, especially in higher education. Reputed universities began to go online, offering their courses and quality education to students all over the globe. India too has come under its influence, as is seen by the Swayam platform and the Bharat Padhe online campaign launched by the Government of India. Never has its significance been more felt than now, when the world is reeling under the effects of COVID-19 pandemic. Traditional classrooms have become inaccessible to teachers and students who have had to adapt to the online system in order to continue the teaching learning process. To expand on the shift from reality to virtuality, we are indeed honored to have two prolific speakers amongst us. Without further ado, I now request my colleague and joint convener of this webinar, Dr. Sunita Kejriwal, to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Tapan Basantia. Thank you.
Good evening and warm welcome. Our first speaker is Dr. Tapan Basantia, Associate Professor of Department of Teacher Education, School of Education, Central University of South Bihar, Gaya. He actively engaged himself in teaching, research, extension works and developmental activities in field of education and its allied areas for around last 2 decades. He has research and teaching experience of around 20 years, including PhD, MPhil, MA, BA in Education, B.Ed, BSc B.Ed, BA B.Ed integrated. He was awarded various awards in research and academics. He developed various self-learning materials and e-learning materials. He has developed and coordinated MOOCs. He had various research papers, more than 30 in national and international webinars. He has guided more than 26 PhD and MPhil students. He is the part of various programs, workshops, webinars, and significant position in various universities and colleges. He is the member of editorial board of national and international peer-reviewed journal. He is life member of Northeast India Education Society, Shillong, and All India Association for Education Research, Bhubaneswar. He is involved in manifold activities of various institutions and universities like curriculum development and implementation, admission, development and use of learner-friendly teaching learning materials, and much more. He has professional areas of interest in research, teaching learning process, school education, mainly elementary education, distance education, creativity, education psychology, teacher education, education technology, and in teaching areas, research methodology in education, social science, curriculum and pedagogy, educational assessment and evaluation, philosophical and sociological perspectives. I would like to welcome sir on behalf of our college. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Hello.
Yes, sir, you're audible as well as visible. Please continue.
Madam, I'll start.
Yes, please start, sir.
Okay, okay. At first, I'm very much thankful to the host institute, that Maharani Kiseshwari College, and for organizing very big program where there are around 200 participants directly for this program. I am thankful to respected principal of this college, Sima Chakravarti, who is the patron of this program. I am thankful to the coordinator of this program, Dr. T.K. Chand and and his team, that Sayanti Bhowmik and Sunita Kejriwal, who are relentlessly working for making this particular program successful. So I am very much thankful to them. I am thankful to coordinate that IQAC of this college as well as this Department of Education, because jointly these two bodies are organizing this particular program. And at the same time, I am thankful to esteemed resource person, that Professor Dhruvajyoti Chatterjee, who is a very much senior teacher, senior professor of different universities, you can say, who has spent time in Calcutta University, Amity University, presently working in which university? Presently working in Sister Nivedita University. I am also thankful to esteemed resource person. Now I will start my deliberation on this actuality to virtuality, a paradigm shift in education, basically focusing on higher education. My deliberation would be on actuality to virtuality, a paradigm shift in education, basically focusing on higher education. Many times we are confused about the term virtuality, though we use this particular term in many cases. In most of the cases, we are using this word virtuality. Am I audible to all? Hello? Hello? Yes. Whether I am audible to all?
Yes, very much.
Yes, yes. Okay, thank you. So, we use the term virtuality in most of the cases, but we are not clear about the concept. What is virtuality? And this particular word virtuality has influence in our every aspect of life in one way or other. So, in this particular session, we will focus on how there is a shift from actual education to virtual education. I think that most of the participants of this program are from the field of education. Basically, we will discuss in this program, in this seminar, basically we will discuss that virtual education. How there is a paradigm shift from actual education to virtual education. Real education to virtual education, we will focus on that. All of you know that computer technology came to this world around 1980s when Apple company started for creating the computers. Later on, many other companies started computers in a mass scale. So during the 80s, basically computer technology came to this world. After starting of this computer technology or disseminating the computer knowledge, during I can say that 90s, concept of virtual education or virtual learning came during 90s, especially when there was invention of internet. At that time, virtual concept practically came to this world. Before that, there was no concept, that means little or no concept of virtuality. So you must be knowing that the computer, there are many generations of computers like first generation, second generation, third generation, fourth generation, and computer brought a big and massive change in the whole scenario of education. So accordingly, there is a shift in focus in education because of the impact of ICT. Because of impact of multimedia technology, there is a shift in focus in education. And we have changed our focus from one direction to another direction in a very meaningful manner because of the impact of this computer technology or digital technology or mass media, mass multimedia technology, whatever we can say. So because of that, and especially during this corona time, especially during this COVID-19 time, that this multimedia or virtual education has become more important for us because we have no any way out, but we have to accept that virtual education because when there is no alternative, you have to adopt that one. So we'll discuss in detail that aspect. So you must be knowing that especially during the late 90s and early, late 90s of 20th century, and in this 21st century, there is revolution in multimedia technology. There is revolution in computer technology and multimedia technology, and computer and technology, multimedia technology has affected every or influenced every aspect of our life. Not only our life, the life of other animals, as well as the life of plants also, in one way or other it has affected. Because many times we only discuss about that it has affected the human life only. It's not only human life, it has affected the life, all life in this, all the life in this earth. So, and because of that, there is a massive change in our education. There is a significant change of education. And regarding that, we will discuss how there is a paradigm shift in education because of the impact of ICT technology, because of the impact of multimedia technology. So how there is a paradigm shift, and especially we will discuss about in this discussion virtual universities. This particular concept, virtual university, may be new for many of you, but it started during 1990s. That aspect we will discuss in detail. Let me to start my screen sharing so that one by one we'll go for discussing. So we'll have a discussion on paradigm shift from actual education to virtual education, the perspective of higher education. Basically, we'll focus on higher education. First, in the first segment or first part, we'll have a discussion on changing trend in conception of education and how this change in conception of education brought a change in the whole education system in itself. First, we'll have a discussion how there is a change in the conception of education from one age to another age, from one time to another time. At first, if we look our education system was basically compartmental in nature. It was focusing on one directional development. It was focusing on either knowledge development or value development or skill development. We were not thinking much about holistic development of an individual. If we look our present national curriculum 2005, and even if this recently that passed that national policy on that new education policy 2020, you will find that much focus is given on integrated development of education, holistic development of education, total development of education, integral development of education. But if we look to the previous concept of education was much compartmental. It was much one-dimensional. It was much, you can say, one-sided. But slowly, we thought for holistic change of education, integrated change of education. And because of this change in time, change in technology, change in knowledge, that there is a focus from compartmental education, there is shift in focus from compartmental education to that holistic education. Previously, our education system was basically bipolar, but slowly, and in this bipolar process, education was a communication process between teacher and student, but slowly, because of change, education become multipolar process where education is not remaining, nowadays education is not remaining limited with the textbook or teacher. Rather, a child is free to get education from multi-side, from the multi-system, from the you can say, sources a child can get education. So, there is a change in process of education that is from bipolar to multipolar. Now, teachers as well as textbooks are not the sole provider of knowledge. It is the multimedia, it is the direct experience, it is the other sources which provide education. The learners are free to get their education. This is another shift in focus so far as process is concerned. And previously there was a linear exposure so far as education is concerned, because if the teacher is not teaching and there is no textbook, so the students were not getting education. But now there is a change. Even if the teachers are not teaching, but learner is getting education. The teacher, yes, teachers are teaching and learners are getting education. Even if without the presence of the teacher, the learners can learn. And previously that concept was not there. And it is because of the change in process of education. And this change has come because of the change in knowledge, change in knowledge, change in technology and many other things. Previously, that a learner had to do a limited task. And now, a learner has to get the endless information. You know that our longevity has not increased much because our lifespan, not longevity actually, lifespan. A man will live around 80 years or 90 years or 100 years, but it has not increased. But there is increase in information, there is increase in knowledge, there is increase in many other things. In the limited time, a learner has to learn a lot of things, but previously it was not there. That education was a limited task. But nowadays, education has become such a system that one has to learn many things at a time. Because that lifespan has not increased, but at the same time, we have to learn endless information within the same lifespan. That is why this change has taken place. And previously, there was a common learning route. That means only that same type of education was provided to all people. But there is an individual learning route because of the change in the time, change in the system, change in the process, change in the ideology, change in the, you can say, technology. So there is individual learning routes have been upon in many ways. But previously, it was a common learning route. And because of the because of the change in the time, change in the system, there is a change in the process of education, and all these change lead to, or all these change have, we can say, tie up with our virtual education. Later on, we'll go for discussing. See, previously much focus was given on teaching, But nowadays, focus is not given on teaching. Focus is on learning. What the teacher is not teaching, that's not important. What the learner is learning, that is important. If the teacher is teaching and learner is not learning, then that is not a teaching, because it is not able to achieve its target. That is why present learning is much focusing on learning, where previous learning was much focusing on teaching. While teaching was teacher-centered, you can say, learning is learner-centered. So learning is very much tied with the learner, and we can say if the learning is not occurring, so teaching has no meaning. And previous education was always one-to-one education, but present education is one-to-many education or many-to-many education. So at a time, we can provide education. You can see today we have a discussion where around 200 participants are there, remaining at a distance place. I am talking with you people. I am getting this opportunity because of your contribution, so that so many people are learning at a time. So one-to-many or many-to-many, this concept in one-to-one or one-to-few, this concept has been changed. So we one-to-many and many-to-many concept has come up. See, I will discuss here three main types of education, evolving three main types of education. So whole discussion is, today's discussion is on these three types of education, because of the change in multimedia, because of the change in the technology, we got three types of education. One is conventional education, which was in the past, which is now. Also, we expect that conventional education will be there in future also. Another concept is there, that is distance education. This distance education started a few years ago or a few decades ago, and it is also a prominent media of education in recent time. But very latest, especially in the 20th century, this concept of virtual or online education has come up. So distance education remain in between conventional education and virtual education. So it is a midway between conventional education and virtual education. It bears the features of conventional education in one hand, and it bears the features of virtual education in another hand. I can say that during 1960s, basically in London, London Open University started distance education at first. And it started in the form of correspondence education. Many of you are aware about the concept of correspondence education. When distance education at first started, that the educational institutions were providing the study material to the students, and the students were studying the study materials. After studying, they were attending their examination in the respective centers, and they were getting their degrees slowly. And distance education at that time was limited with only correspondence mode, postal mode, and it was limited with only study materials. And London University first started that Open University of London first started this course. And in India, there was a center, or that still that center is there, that in Delhi University there, that in 1962 Center for Correspondence Education started. After that, in India, in 1985, first National Distance Open University started, which is known as IGNOU. But in India, in 1981-82, that Ambedkar Open University, that is in Hyderabad, that is started, that is called as the first Open University in the country. So, but first National Open University is IGNOU, and now you will find in the country around how many, around 20 to 25 Open universities are there. One National Open University and many state Open universities like your Netaji Subhash Open University, KK Hendik Open University, Nalanda Open University, Odisha State Open University, then Bhoj Open University. You will find that so many, that Ambedkar in the Open University, then Tamil Nadu Open University, then Karnataka, then so many Rajarsi Tondon, so many Open University. I know so far as 20 to 25 Open Universities are there. Open Universities has different names. Sometimes we can say that those are, even if traditional universities, let me to discuss about that. Traditional universities also started that open education center like correspondence education center, like Rabindra Bharat University has correspondence education center, Delhi University has, Hyderabad University has, that Tejpur University has, so many universities started correspondence. In India, large number of many reputed universities like Anamala University, then you will find that many universities they have a correspondence education center. So distance education were provided through two categories of university. Conventional educational universities started distance education centers, as well as distance open universities started in the country. Like that, I told that 20-25 universities are there. And at first, the distance universities were only providing education through correspondence mode, but slowly, they used multimedia in a faster speed. And nowadays, they are using much multimedia than the correspondence mode. And you can say in the world there are 10 mega open universities. Out of 10 mega open universities in India, we have IGNO, where the students are more than lakhs. So mega open universities are there. In Pakistan, there is a mega open university. There are many countries, they have 10 out of 10 mega open universities. India has IGNO. So this is about the distance education. Distance education is an alternative to the conventional education. The reason is that those who are not getting chance through conventional education, they were getting chance through distance education. Those who are working people, they are not getting chance in conventional education. They went for that distance education. Those who are not interested for conventional education, they went for distance education. So in this way, those who are not getting seat in conventional education, they are getting seat in distance education. In this way, distance education popularized mass education. Because in our country like India, we have around 140 crore populations, so it is very difficult to provide conventional education to all. That is why distance education came as a strong alternative to present education system. So distance education provided, it is another route to the conventional education, another route to the education. Where there is a limitation of conventional education, distance education tried to fulfill that. Slowly in 1990s, virtual education came. Virtual education basically totally based on internet-based education. Totally based on what? Online education. So we will discuss more about virtuality that afterwards. So virtual education. You can say that virtual education is an alternative to conventional education in one hand, distance education in another hand. The existing limitations of conventional educations are catered by distance education. The existing limitations of distance education are catered by virtual education. So virtual education is totally online based education. It is totally online based education. It is totally internet based education. While conventional education is provided in face-to-face mode, distance education is provided both in face-to-face mode in some cases and with the help of traditional mode like that correspondence through letters, correspondence through corresponding the study material. But virtual education is solely depends upon net-based education. It is totally based on online education, what we will discuss later on. See, that is why because of this change in focus in this education system, two kinds of education now it is separated. You have to remember that these two kinds of education are not totally different. They are not substitute. They are not opposite. But one is complementary to another. One is supplementary to another. One is cooperative to another. Because real education is basically provided in face-to-face mode. Virtual education is provided in a online mode. Now, question is asked whether real education has a tie-up with virtual education. Yes, the traditional university is also using the virtual mode. Now, question arises whether virtual education is totally separate from real education. This question is very much problematic whether virtual education without taking the real element. How can we think about virtual education? Because virtual education copies the real education. Virtual education so models the real education. That is why virtual education has no existence without real education, and real education uses also virtual platform for making it successful. And especially during this time, you can see we are using virtual education for real education, for actual education. Let us go ahead. Now, because of these kind of changes, there is a paradigm shift in actual education to virtual education in different dimensions of education. So, focus of education change in different dimensions, basically relating to aims or focus, curriculum or teacher-taught relationships, or you can say pedagogic strategies. In because of the creation of virtual world, there is a change in focus. That one we will discuss. So previously education was for a few, but now education is for mass or all. Because our traditional institutions, formal educational institutions, conventional educational institutions cannot cater large number of people because it has limitation. So you can go to Calcutta University. How many seats are there for a master degree? How many universities are there in Calcutta to cater the master degree demands of the students? So it is very limited. This is very costly. So everybody could not afford. So it is not possible for all. Only the top ranking people, they get this chance. And sometimes job holders, they don't get the chance because they cannot leave the job. That is why there is concept of distance education, further concept of virtual education, which tried to provide equal quality of education to the people in a different mode. That is why now the target group audience become more. That is why the online education, virtual education, distance education, this is promoting mass education. So there is a shift in focus from providing education to a few people to educating to mass. Previously, education was basically limited up to 20-25 years, because after that you have to enter your job life. You will not be allowed to go to formal educational institution. Now, because of the creation of virtual universities, virtual educational institutions, that lifelong education has come. You must be knowing, before 10 years or 15 years, many people of these banks, many people, bank workers, they didn't know much about bank. Now you see that they didn't know much about the use of computer or use of laptop and how to use that management system through e-governance system, basically e-governance system. Now you can see whenever you will go to any bank, you find that everybody knows that e-governance system relating to bank. This has become possible because of the creation of distance education and creation of this online or virtual education. So there is a shift in focus from the educating the specific period of life to lifelong education. That means now a person get education from the birth to death, home to tomb, cradle to grave, whatever you can say. Lifelong education has been promoted because of the impact of this distance and virtual education. Another one, previous education was basically you must be knowing that place and time bound education. But the present education is not place and time bound education. It is education at any time, anywhere. I am now discussing here and you people are listening there. So anytime, anywhere, now we are discussing at evening time. So this is a convenient time for us. Convenient time for many, because after you are completing your homework, after completing your office work, you are participating in this program. You can say this is anytime, anywhere education. And this has become possible because of virtual education. Previously, that courses were very limited and those were the traditional courses, and because of the impact of virtual education, there is a web-based courses. We are learning a lot from the website. We are learning a lot of web-based courses, and we are handling a lot of web-based courses because of the impact of this virtual education and distance education. And previously, there was a limited source of education, that was a textbook, that was teacher, and now there are multiple sources of learning, including, you can say, your television, your radio, your internet, your any other source. You can go any library. So there are multiple sources of learning is possible because of this creation of virtual education. So there is, so far as pedagogy is concerned, there is a massive change in pedagogy. Previously, pedagogy was basically traditional method of teaching was there, lecture method, discussion method. Now It is not limited with that. There is a techno-pedagogy, blended pedagogy, use of artificial intelligence in the teaching learning process. This has become possible because of the impact of virtual learning, because of the impact of distance learning, because of the impact of online education. So there is the new concept of techno-pedagogy, using technology in our pedagogy of teaching learning process. We are blended learning. We are blending the face-to-face learning with the virtual learning. You must be knowing the smart classroom system. When in the teachers in the smart classroom system, the teacher can use the smart board in such a way that the teacher can record the things the teacher can use for the further purposes. So blended learning is possible. We are using artificial intelligence for also that changing our pedagogic style. And there is a shift of conception of teacher. Previously, we were telling teacher as master or guru, but now, especially because of the development of distance education and online education, the concept of teacher has been changed to counselor, tutor, mentor, e-tutor, robot, whatever you can say. They are also teaching. So they are not, because they are not solely teacher. They are doing so many kinds. They are counseling you. They are giving you, that means providing you some kind of tuition, or they are the tutor. They are just like your, you can say they are mentor. That means they are guiding you for different purposes. They may not teach, but they can guide you. E-teacher, then e-tutor, you can say robot. Robot also now is used in, and you must be knowing that future days are the days of robot. Future days are the days of artificial intelligence. Though human beings are the creator of the artificial intelligence, but artificial intelligence will lead the world. And like that robot future, it is because you must be knowing. How many of you are very much aware about online education? Because of this pandemic period, because of this COVID-19 period, everybody, you can ask a child of 5-6 ages, the child will tell online education. What is online education? The child knows even. So because of this is the need of the time, and because of the development in the, you can say, system, so everybody knows. So there is a shift in the conception of teacher. In future, that robot may take the leading role in teaching learning process, and we teacher may take or may not take, that only the future will tell. You can see previously that the learner was the passive recipient of knowledge, but now that learner is the active constructor of knowledge. You must be knowing that NCF 2005, even if that our new education policy emphasizes about the constructing knowledge by the learner, where the learner would be placed at the central place of the teaching learning process. And that is why previously the teacher was discharging everything, and learner was learner was just taking it and vomiting it in the exam. But now the system is not like that. Now the learner is an active learner. The teacher is to support, but not to direct here. The teacher will be a guide, but the teacher is not everything else for the learner. That is why the learner is an active constructor of knowledge. So there is a change in even if the definition of that learner. Previously we are focusing much on student. Now we are focusing on a learner, because our entire focus is on learner and learning. And previously there was the concept of traditional classroom. Now the concept of virtual classroom, smart classroom, flipped classroom, blended classroom, those new concepts has come because of the impact of this multimedia, or impact of this web technology, or impact of virtual technology, whatever you can say, that there is a shift. So you can find a shift so far as conception, so shift so far as pedagogy, shift so far as curriculum, so far as teacher-taught relationship, so far as classroom processes. So everywhere you can find that there is a mode of education. Previously it was basically face-to-face mode. Now it is distance or digital mode. Previously there was a traditional education centers. That means you will go, you will find where is IGNO. IGNO is in Moidanagari, New Delhi. Where is Assam University? Assam University is in that Assam in Silchar. But now whenever in website you will search where is Tamil Virtual University, you may not get where Tamil Virtual University is, because it is just like a dream. The time when you will search in the website, you will find a university. After you are coming from the website, you will not find no university there. There is not a place that this is a place where you will find the university. So you can see everything, every feature of a university there, but physically you will not find that university in a particular place. This is the beauty. I can give a small example, especially distance education. I completed 3 courses from IGNO. But once I went to IGNO for writing some material, B.Ed material, one of the IGNO person told me that, oh, you are our student. But I immediately reacted. When I was your student, I forgot that I never learned from you. That means I was a distant student of IGNO. I was a student of IGNO truth, and whatever he is telling, he is correct. But I forgot that I was a student of IGNO because I completed my course in distance or online mode. I didn't know who was my teacher, who was giving me, or who was mentoring me, or who was guiding me. That is why if somebody or an unknown person will come and will tell that I am your teacher, how you will react when you taught me? Can you understand my point? Can you listen me? Hello? Hello?
Yes,
sir, you're audible, sir.
Yes,
You're
sir.
audible,
Okay. So these are the things. So you can see. So understanding the different facets of virtual education. Now we'll have discussion on different facets of virtual education. What is virtual education? Many of us are not aware. Means we don't know the concept, but we use the concept. We'll see that what is virtual education. What really virtual education is. A learning which is not real, but it represents itself as real. Because online learning, you can say web-based learning, internet learning, it is not real learning. It is just like a dream. But whenever you will go for a dream, you see so many things after coming that. So you may remember, or you may, in dream you will find 2 kind of things. Sometimes dream is, you can see the real world in dreaming, but sometimes you may not see in the real world in dreaming. But in many cases in virtual learning, you will find, most of the cases you will find real world in dreaming. So it is a learning which is not real, but it represents itself as the real. Because online learning, especially web-based learning, it is not real, you can say it, but it represents itself as if it is real. For example, now you will go to Oxford University and you will search a different department of Oxford. Suppose Oxford University will prepare a virtual campus, and so everything that Oxford University will put in the website, and you will go and you will see every department, library, laboratory, playground, everything you saw. But you can see from here. You can see from here all such things. You will not go there, but you can see from. So it is not real, but it represents as if it is real. A learning which doesn't bear real quality, but it represents as if it bears the real quality. A learning which is based on a digital mode or digital environment, that is virtual learning. The web-based learning, that learning platform that models the real world education by providing, one point you focus, equivalent virtual access to class learning content, test and assessment, homework, grade, and other such things. Yet it provides everything, but it's not in face-to-face mode. It tries to provide equal quality so far as traditional education is concerned. It tries to provide, but it is not traditional education. One point you can say. So nowadays you can find these concepts everywhere, but these are not, many of you are not accustomed. Virtual world, virtual mobility, virtual tour, virtual collaboration, virtual event, virtual class, virtual educational fair exhibition, virtual lab, virtual internship, virtual courses and seminar, virtual university. We will discuss much about virtual university later. You can see virtual world, which is not real world. A world which is based on internet, where you can see the world, you can see every country, you can say geography, history, politics, education of many countries. You can see in internet. That is not known as virtual world. You can see the whole world. You can see the whole universe in the world. Yeah, sorry, universe in the internet. That is not known as virtual universe. That's not real universe. That's just virtual universe, because virtual world, you can see the whole world in internet, but that is not real. Real world, you have to go everywhere. You have to go every country. You have to go every part of the world, every continent. You can see. But virtual world, remaining in your home, you can see the whole world. Virtual mobility. I want to go from here to Calcutta. I may not go, but I just see in internet. Virtual tour. Suppose I will go for America. I will go to America. I will see every country of America, features of America. I can see in internet, every country, different places of America, rivers of America. Then you can see animals of America. Other things you can see, education system of America, economy system. You can collect a lot of information. You can see. You can go for a virtual tour to America. Many times that student who go for that internship, they go for virtual to a particular industry where industry creates the virtual campus or creates the virtual sites where one can see everything about the industry through that virtual tour. We can go for virtual collaboration. So now you see that we are participating in this program because of the virtual collaboration. We are collaborating each other with the help of internet. Virtual event. You are organizing this seminar with the help of this virtual, because of this virtual, you can say system, virtual class. The class, what is going on, that's a virtual class. Virtual educational fair or exhibition. Educational fair can be organized. You can see so many, you can go for a science exhibition in virtual mode. You can open a site, everybody can see. Virtual laboratory, one can conduct the lab work in virtual. Even if you know that now, especially I can say that master degree students, they are conducting, they are not going to the field for collection of data. Those who are doing master degree and field degree, and they are conducting data virtually. They are not going directly to the field because it is not possible. So virtual internship, one can conduct virtual data, one can conduct, collect virtual course, one can go for virtual courses or seminars. The way we are going for virtual seminar, virtual university system will see like that. This virtual learning has so many kindred concept or related concept, you can say. We put it in different names like e-learning, web-based learning or net-based learning, distance and open learning. Practically distance and open learning, it is not fully virtual. It is somewhat face-to-face. You can say it includes both virtual features as well as other features, you can say. Then online learning, blended learning, digital learning, smart learning, multimedia, computer-based learning, satellite, wireless-based learning. These are the different kindred concepts, related concepts of virtual education. Related concepts. These are used interchangeably, synonymously. These concepts are used. Let us have a discussion on the concept, division of the concept of virtual learning. Basically, virtual learning can be two types. One is asynchronous. We can say also asynchronous e-learning and synchronous e-learning. Asynchronous is that is one-way direction. Synchronous is two-way direction. Instant talking between two parties. In asynchronous, there is no instant talking between two parties. In asynchronous, for example, you are sending email. Immediately you are not getting reply. That's not instant, immediate talking between two parties. So, the way, then PowerPoint presentation. The teacher is presenting, but immediate response is not getting. So, normal PowerPoint presentation, that cannot be synchronous. Because in synchronous, there is always two-way communication. Communication between two parties. It may be teacher, student, or any kind of person who is communicating and the receiver. So there is a direct interaction, but the concept of direct immediate interaction is not there in asynchronous communication like that. Email, PowerPoint, ebook you can read. You cannot ask the question directly immediately. E-test, some tests are there which are provided in internet. You can immediately ask, even if that something wrong is there, you cannot ask, this is wrong and rectify this one. Immediately you cannot ask. Some games you will find, even if some podcasting, so audio content, some video content, that video, etc., you will not. So it is basically what way, immediate there is interaction. But there are also some virtual learning where there is a direct communication. There is instant messaging, instant communication. So just like virtual classroom, the classroom what is going on now, audio conferencing, video conferencing. There are some group games in the in internet. There are some instant messaging. Immediately, whenever you will send a message, you will get a reply. Blogging, whenever you are going for blogging, you are opening your site, you are putting your profile, then you are getting your response. So blogging, some bloggings are etc. Those are two-way communication. Then we can go for. So there are many social sites which also help for virtual learning. You might be knowing, and you are also accustomed with that, like Facebook, Twitter, Facebook and Twitter. Everybody knows blogger. You can open a blog site. Then you can also that put your profile. You can write something. You can ask the comment from others. You can get the. Then you can use the Skype for two-year communication. And YouTube, you must be knowing that YouTube is very much familiar with everybody. I don't think that anybody is not there who is not using that YouTube. Teacher tube, it basically includes the teacher related material. You can also get from that site or from that app. You can get teacher related, basically relating to teacher and teaching learning process. Instagram, where different organizations, then different industries, etc., businessmen, they go for sharing their photograph. ResearchGate, those who are in academics, I think that many of you have account in ResearchGate, where you can post your publication, you can post your project, you can also go for data analysis, you can contact with many people. If you have doubt, you can ask to your followers, they can ask you. LinkedIn, that is used for the professional and job related matters. So there are different social sites also. Those are one way or another way helping for this one. Helping for what? Helping for this online or virtual learning. Now we'll discuss some of the repositories or sites or sources for access of online material or web-based learning materials. These are very important basically to education people. You must be heard about this that information library network. Its main center is in that Gujarat, perhaps in Ahmedabad. That is Ahmedabad. Information and library Inflinet. So Inflinet is a center for many academic activities. You will find a large number of study material, library related study material there. You will find also there, even if you will find that e-Pathshala materials, that means that PG Pathshala materials there. So it is a that Inflinet center. Also nowadays that Inflinet provides the learning management system. Learning management system. Next time I will discuss about learning management system. How you can go for creating the online learning platform and how you can also use that online learning platform. It is also providing support. So information and library network, it is inter-university center of UGC. Practically it is launched from that Gujarat, and it is providing a lot of academic and library related support to many peoples of the country. So everybody can, because basically these are the open online source materials. It's open for all. You must be knowing that Consortium for Educational Communication, CEC, it is also one inter-university center. It is also, previously it was around, I think that 5 universities were considered as a nodal center for this, but now more than 12 or a dozen of universities have nodal centers for. Basically, this is CEC help for preparing the online material. It provides that communication facilities, preparing the online material, preparing the video material. It provides different kind of support to the people. So this is also an inter-university center of UGC. You must be knowing that NROER, National Repository of Open Educational Resources, that is open educational resources. You will find a number of, I will show that site of that, what are the things you will get from there. I will show later on in that site. So open educational resource material, you will find that that is open for all. Nowadays, it is not closed from. You must be knowing that throughout the world, education is basically privatized, because most of the publishers you will find, most of the journal publishers or book publishers of the world are private bodies at the world level. In India, somewhat that government bodies are there, but in whole world level, you can see Routledge, you can see CRC Press, you can see that Sage, you can see, so any other, you can see that Springer, whatever you can say. So private companies are more, but private companies, you cannot access their material unless you will pay. But once you have open source material, you can easily access open source material. Nowadays, there are many repositories. You will find open source material. You will not do. You have not to pay for it. So, Government of India went for this NROER, where open source materials are available, like that here. What I can say, just say. Creative Commons license में जो material, whatever material you find, it is just like that material where you will find, you can use those materials where that for your own purpose. And you must meaning I am giving you two sites, but these are now old, EduSat and SITE. SITE, Satellite Instructional Television Experiment. This was conducted with this experiment was conducted during 1970s. You can say at first with the help of NASA and ISRO. Both jointly conducted, especially providing that education with the help of satellite in India. That this experiment was conducted in 1970s and it was quite fruitful. And around 2000, EduSat was launched for providing education to remote areas of the country. Basically, many states of the country, including Odisha, was there, where education was provided through EduSat. But nowadays, and this satellite was launched. You must be knowing that Gyanvani and Gyan Darshan. Gyanvani is the radio channel of IGNO. IGNO was basically taking the leading step for this Gyanvani. It was a radio channel where that means you are providing different that means educational. You can say audio you are provided. You can listen that radio for educational purpose. Gyanvani was. And Gyan Darshan is the TV channel that is also basically the IGNO TV channel, Gyan Darshan, where you will get a lot of education through this TV channel. So this is Gyanvani and Gyan Darshan. Now you must be knowing that in in Kharagpur, that IIT Kharagpur has launched this National Digital Library. And it is doing a number of work. I will show that after one National Digital Library, it is also providing a lot of online material and online activity to the people for digital learning enhancement. And Government of India, just like our Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission and National Mission of Teachers and Teaching, Government has another mission, that is National Mission on Education through ICT. MNEICT. This mission providing different projects, different money project, etc. to the different. Okay, sorry, एक minute. So different for digital enhancement, ये provide करता है money. So it provides the money. Swayam, you must be knowing that Swayam is a very big now online platform. You can say MOOC platform. MOOC I'll discuss later. Swayam is a MOOC platform which provides open education. The MOOC means massive open online courses. I'll discuss later on. It provides the MOOC material to MOOC courses to the people, to thousands and lakhs of people. Swayam provides this, just like Swayam provides a channel that is also provides the online education to the people. And you must be knowing that Sodhganga, which is a repository of UGC so far as our PhD thesis is concerned. Then Sodhgangotri, that repository is meant for your research proposal, like your project proposal, your PhD proposal. That is not you can say that is not for thesis, but thesis is kept in. If you will go to Sodhganga, you will find large number of theses. University wise you will get, and you can retrieve the thesis. In E-Pathasala, you will find that educational material from different level, from school level to higher education level. So, sorry, E-Pathasala, you will find basically that is the NCERT platform where you find school education material. But in PG Pathasala, you will find that basically PG courses or PG courses material you will find there in PG Pathasala. Besides that, there is a Sal Darpan, which is a, you can say, e-governance system of KB school. You will find Diksha platform. Diksha platform is it is basically for enhancement of teacher quality, competencies, and teachers' professional development. You can find MOOC. MOOC has brought a massive change in the present education, massive open online courses, because it is open for all. It is no cost throughout the world. remaining in any part of the world, you can get this course and you can get a certificate. And the MOOCs is very popular nowadays. We'll discuss later. Besides that, their module, basically module is not a platform, basically it is a software system where you can create the online material with the help of a module. You can, this is a kind of learning management system. The way MOOC uses so many kind of learning management system, module uses so many, module is basically a learning management system. It is free. You can also prepare your e-learning material with the help of a module. Then National Program of Technology Enhanced Learning, it is also a project of Government of India, which provides that digital learning, which facilitates digital learning, which provides the provides support for digital learning. Okay, these are the things you can see. This is the site of Infinite Center where you can see, you can say, even if so, you can search these sub sites. You can find so the Sindhus. You can see these things. So the Sindhu, then so Sudhi, then so many things that you can see. Here also you will find e-Pathshala, then Vidwan database, Vidya Mitra, all these you will find that in the Infinite Center, you can get all these things. You can say this is the site of Consortium of Educational Communication. So this is the site which provide all kind of media support for preparing the learning material, e-learning courses, etc. This is now around 12 universities has this center for this CEC centers. You can see now site for NROER. You can see different materials. Just I took the screenshot from those sites and I am putting you. You can see here. You can see that open education resources mapped to school curriculum, school curricular, then homogeneous collection of resources. You will find lot of, when you will open these sites, you will find lot of material. You can see site of National Digital Library of India, IIT Kharagpur, you can see. Then shift in the perspective of higher education in this virtual era. You can see virtual education concept basically in 1995, it came and it became popular in 90s. And virtual world gave birth to virtual universities where both synchronous and asynchronous means are used for this end. Okay, so virtual global university, I may see in the world level you will find many virtual universities. Virtual Global University of German, the Mediterranean Virtual University in Europe, the Syrian Virtual University. Tamil Nadu claims to have the first virtual university in India, which is a totally online mode university. And even in Punjab Technical University, along with the collaboration of lovely international trust, has taken initiative to go for virtual education. Okay, so virtual university has also many kindred concepts like cyber university, online university, e-university, wireless university. So many concepts are there. Now these concepts are very popular, you can see. So if we see, there are two kinds of virtual learning centers. So I'll take 5-7 minutes maximum. There are two kinds of virtual learning centers. One is institutions bearing more virtual features because those who are using much internet or digital media, and institutions bearing less virtual features like the traditional educational institutions. And on the basis of that, you will find there are 4 types of virtual universities. One is traditional universities expanding online delivery. Nowadays, you must be knowing that all the school, colleges and universities are going for online delivery. That means traditional universities now also going for virtual delivery. Second category, you will find ODL institutions delivering the e-learning courses. ODL universities, but along with their ODL features, they are also providing e-learning courses. MOOCs has revolutionized, brought a massive change in the higher education now, and MOOCs have complete feature of virtual learning, complete feature of that online learning. MOOCs are sometimes MOOCs are not basically related to any stage event. School people can go, college people can go, university people can go. So it is open, it is massive for all, it is open for all, it is online based. These are the courses. Then you can find virtual universities. Now you can see, now you see There are many MOOCs platforms you will find worldwide important MOOC platforms. I have given Udemy, which developed in 2010 and was launched by these people like Irene Bali, Okte, like that Okte, Kaglara, then Gagan, Biani, etc. edX is also a MOOC platform which is developed in 2012. FutureLearn is a MOOC platform which is developed in 2013 around. Udacity is a MOOC platform started in 2012 by Stanford University. Coursera, it is started in 2012 by Stanford University Scholar. Now in India, we have a MOOCs platform which is created around 2007 by MHRD, then NPTEL, IIT Madras, Google, and Persistent System. So this is a system, this is a platform of MOOC, and it is providing, you must be knowing that it is providing online courses, refresher courses, and many other courses like courses for school students, college students, etc. It is providing. Even if before 1 year I was the that coordinator of this ORPIT program of MOOCs, that is, I can say, online refresher course in teaching, where there are around 2,500 participants in that course, and that course was running around 2 months, and I was the coordinator of that program that was launched by MHRD under that PMMT scheme, and I was the coordinator of that one. You can see some virtual university sites. You can see here Tamil Virtual University, which has been considered as the first virtual university of the country in India. But you can see, if you will search the virtual university, never you will find where it is located. It is only located, yes, it has a, that means organization which is launching it, but you will not find its physical location. So this is the Tamil Virtual University. You can see that is the Mahorshi Vedavyas International Virtual University. You can see here, you can see 5 minutes I will take maximum. Then you can see this Nelson Mandela Virtual University. You can see also this Virtual University of Uganda. You can see now. You can see also other virtual university like Virtual University of Pakistan. You can see there are large number of virtual universities in the world you will find. But because virtual education has brought a massive change in education, basically it focus the open education, online education, mass education. It has many advantages. For example, now virtual universities are there. Now there would be virtual schools, no doubt. So it will be extended to school level slowly. So even if MOOCs are very much open, it is ranging from the university level to school level. So you will find it is a strong alternative or supplementary to the traditional education. It guides for the real world. Though it is not real, but it guides for the real world. It leads to massive education. It leads to open and flexible education. It leads for wider choice. It provides anytime, anywhere to any person education. It is cost-effective education. It is individual. It provides individualized service. You can learn at your own pace. So you can go for. There is no domination of teacher. There is flexibility in attendance. It is all-time learning. It is enhances your technological literacy and competency. There is no need of traveling. You can sit in your home and you can get your education. So, but some sort of limitations are there. First one is issues of accreditation and assessment. I showed you so many virtual universities, but whether those are UGC accredited? No. They are opened with the help of registered bodies, but the question of accreditation and assessment is now even if question mark. Time was many people were not recognizing distance education centers. Now it is recognized. Previously webinars were not recognized, but now every institution is going for webinar. So now issue of accreditation and assessment is there. Quality issue is also there because it is free, open, controlling is a little bit less, but it is given by large, very top universities. When top university is giving, they are also maintaining quality, but sometimes quality issues are there when where many other people give those who don't maintain the quality. They may not be real, but they but they are not real. They may pretend like real, but they are not real. No physical contact, little emotional touch, issue of learner motivation and engagement is very less. Regional language you will not find in regional language, etc. So you will not. So network issue, access to technology issue, customization issues are there. LMS, जो learning management, ये learning because you have to adjust with them. Then compatibility issues, etc. are there. So thank you. There are many things to discuss, but the time is very less. So what I can say, so this is about my discussion because repeatedly I get the call from there to complete the things. Okay, thank you for bearing me. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, sir, for your very engaging
Thank you,
discussion.
madam. Thank you.
I would now request my colleague Namrata Ganguly to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Dhruvodjyoti Chattopadhyay.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome our next guest professor, Dhruvodjyoti Chattopadhyay, who is currently the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Sister Nivedita University, Kolkata, since January 2020. He was also the founder Vice Chancellor of Amity University, Kolkata from 2015 to 2019. Besides this, he was the Dean of the Faculty of Science at the University of Calcutta on 2008 till 2015 and the Director at the Center for Research for Nanoscience and Nanotechnology at the University from 2007 to 2015. Dr. Chattopadhyay has received numerous awards, accolades like the Youngest Scientist Awards in 1989, Member of Guha Research Conference in 1992, Professor Umakant Sinha Memorial Award in 1992, Fellow of the National Academy of Science in 1998. He received the prestigious fellowship to carry out research under the Department of Biochemistry at the University of Texas. He was a Fellow of the Indian Academy of Sciences in 2004, Fellow of West Bengal Academy of Science and Technology in 2006. He has lifetime memberships in various organizations and scientific associations like Indian Science Congress Association, member of Asiatic Society, member of Biotechnology Society, member of Virological Society, and so on. His 130 research papers and 6 book chapters have been agents of social change. On behalf of all gathered here, I welcome sir to this glorious evening. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Good evening to everybody. We just actually listened the excellent presentation by Professor Tapan. And I really congratulate Professor Tapan that you almost covered all the points. It was so fascinating and it's so mesmerizing. And I'm sure there are a lot of questions to ask you, but maybe you didn't have the time. That's why there are some problem. But anyway, because most of the part being covered, so I shall actually I'm not going to take much time to all the 200 participants who are here from 5 o'clock. Let me first congratulate the principal madam, my friend Shima Chakraborty, the IQAC coordinator, the conveners, the faculty members, and everybody who are here in this webinar, which is fantastically explained to all of you by our very learned friend, Professor Tapan. Can I have my slides? If I could have my slides, please. Yeah, so you know that in 3 decades since the last National Education Policy 1986, 1986, 1990, significantly. The economy has opened up, social structures have changed, and there is increased participation of all groups in this grown exponentially in the global challenges. So here I should just show you a slide which gives us a chronology of our understanding of education pedagogy changes. If you look at the 1840s to 1950s, it is mainly, yeah, next slide, please. You are right. Correspondence and broadcast. That's the early technology in education. But later on, between 1960s to 1990s, the computer-based trainings, the web-based one, web-based training, everything came out in the Education 1.0. In 2000, the Web 2.0 came, the Education 2.0 is there. It was there in the form of the joint between the online and the offline. In 2010, we have the social and virtual learning. And then in 2011, we developed this massive open online course MOOC. And then if you look at, it is very interesting to find out that recently the Education 4, which is highly influenced by the Industry 4.0, has been started. So this is a chronology of our development and the development of different Education 4.0 up to. Now, this national education policy, which has been, is a response to these changes and challenges while being anchored in strong fundamentals of good education. This policy is also a response to the unfinished education agenda set up by the last education policies. If you know that it's one in 1968, another in 1986, 1992. Now, a strong, vibrant public education system is a foundation. And based on that, we are having this change in it. I am specifically mentioning it about national education policy because most of the thing about the virtual to real, that these things have been already been very nicely, the actual reality to virtuality, this paradigm shift by my respected friend, Professor Tapan. Next slide. Next slide. So, you know that he mentioned about this traditional learning, which is told what we need to know, memorize it, and then problem assigned to illustrate how to use it. But then if we consider the problem-based learning, there we could see that problem assigned, identify what we need to know, and then learn and apply to solve the problem. Very nicely explained by Professor Tapan. And here actually comes the very importance of the whole thing. Let me go back to the historical paradigm. Next slide, in the teaching pedagogy. Next slide, please. So the Socratic method, which is actually covered from the hypothesis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the inquisitor asks questions. The elenchus, that is considered the hypothesis, think critically, identify the weakness, pose the next question, and revise the hypothesis. And what the interlocutor actually does, the answers the questions, revises the hypothesis. And this is a satisfactory hypothesis emerges. Next slide. Now, in the next one, when we looked at the Socratic method simplified, one, ask a challenging open-ended question. The second one is build on the first question by asking why. Third one, come up with ideas based on these questions. Interrogate your ideas with continual questions. Repeat the steps 2 to 4 to get closer to a better solution. And it is ideal that you ask these questions with a group of people to get different perspective. And hereby, we could see the evolution in our teaching pedagogy. Next slide, please. Next slide. So over here, you can see that in the question about the posing of question, the person or group discusses the question and works to provide an answer. The person or group studies the answers, looks for possible. The person or group will seek out answers to this new set of questions. The process is repeated until valid hypothesis or truth is revealed. And that is how the whole idea of education pedagogy changes. In the next slide, I shall just show you the next slide. The traditional model to the flipped model. Now, you know that in this particular case, you know that there are inside class, outside class. And when you look at the inside the class, what we can find out that we have to look for the understanding and remember. But outside the class, we have to apply, analyze, evaluate, create. But this is actually the traditional model. In the flipped model, it is just the opposite. In the class, you have to create, you have to evaluate, you have to analyze, you have to apply. And then outside the class, you have to understand, remember. I shall request all my faculty friends, think about this. This is a very important thing for all of us who are now looking for a new education, new normal situation, the flipped model, where the whole thing could be changed and very nicely explained by Professor Basantia. Basantia. Next slide. So what is a flipped classroom? Now you can see the flipping the lectures from in class to a video format that students watch at home on their own time. And every day in class, teacher engages students with activities, workshops, labs, and individual attention. These are the way we have to think about that this flipped classroom is going to be one of the most important part of next learning. Next slide. And this is also, Professor Basantia mentioned that the synchronous and asynchronous, the synchronous group. The synchronous group, where the demonstration and application is going to be there, you have to find it out. You have to find it out that through creative, personalized projects and presentations, you have to demonstrate and apply. Then hands-on activities, games, experiments, and different arts are going to have the experimental engagements. Then the meaning making, that is how actually we can go for the asynchronous one, that is also becoming very, very important. So what? In the asynchronous individual, the blogging, the reflective podcasts, the reflective vocal cards, and tests. So this is how we have to make meaning making. And then concept exploration. In the concept exploration, you can find the online chats to the content-rich websites, to the podcasted lectures, to the video lectures. And in this way, we have to understand the change in the pedagogy of our learning process. Next slide. Next slide. Can I move on to the next slide? And here, actually, what is becoming very important is what we call as an e-learning. Next slide. Next slide. What is e-learning? Actually, we have got it a little bit with this is better than face-to-face training. So it actually adding gamification to engage the people. There will be virtual collaboration across disparate communities, and then it appeals to a modern audience. To us, this type of technologies, we're a little bit of hesitant, but you know, the new generation is well acquainted with these technologies, and this will appeal to them. Actually will give us this stackable and flexible content. It can be returned to a point of need, and it works on a global scale. The flexibility of when learning is completed. So these are actually the best thing what we could find out by this e-learning process. So viewed cross-device, suitable for translation and accessibility, to return to learning frequently for better retention. So here, the thing what we generally practice during our exam is what we have actually put into our memory, we just get it outside. But no, In the exam, we are going to assess the knowledge and not the information what is actually stored within you. Next slide. Next slide. So the relationship between the Socratic method, the increased motivation, the self-confidence, as well as online learning technology, that is the increased motivation. These two are combined together to give rise to an enhanced student motivation and self-confidence. And this is what we are looking forward to, the improved learning. I'm sure all of you will agree that is for a long period of time, we could not practice this. But every challenge is looked upon as an opportunity. The COVID one, when they pushed us to a sin that we have to go for online, as mentioned by Professor Basantia, the different types of SWAM, NPTEL, or the books which are available, we never looked at it, we never practiced it, but it's a time now for us to understand the online learning technology, which will improve our learning. Next slide. The bridge between the students and the, so whom we call as a learner, to the teachers who we now call the mentors are going to be very important. So with Swami Vivekananda's famous quotation, education is a manifestation of the perfection already in man. So the new technologies is actually education personalizing, introducing the intellectual data analysis to MOOCs and blended learning. The student journey is going to be maximizing a holistic experience determined through a comprehensive feedback system. And it will happen that supercomputer for every student and staff member in another 20, 25 years. And the new thinking is also very important. You have to lead by examples, promoting best practices, gamification, and also the open university, the digital university concept, which is very nicely put forward by Professor Tapan. Next slide. Next slide. If we move on to the next slide, we will really get the blended learning understanding, which actually has got a human face, the motivation, personalization. The technology phase is a mobility and the structure. The control will be done by the artificial intelligence, whereby you can get the feedback, the discipline, and the self-evaluation, that is the cognitive tools, where you have a very open thing, the self-study, the learn at one's own pace. I, in one particular online class, can go back to the recorded material, go on, find out the areas which are not clear to me, get my questions ready, and come back again in my next class. In that way, at your own pace, you can learn. Next slide. So there are a number of benefits which are actually very important for the blended benefits of this blended learning for teachers. It has got a better information, extended time with students, the team teaching, the individualized professional development plans. You know, in our classes, the best students are there, mediocres are there, poor students are there. All three should be looked upon. Our attention should be given to the poor students to bring them up to the best students. And that is how we have to look for the curricular development, which can actually make the people interested in learning process. So we should have a leadership role. We have to motivate her to reach the kids. And you know, this is definitely in future will give more earning power, new options to teach at home, focus on happier, focus on the deeper learning process. In the next slide. Next slide. Move on to the next slide, please. So these drivers of the blended learning, I remember the famous quote by Nelson Mandela, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And I'm sure the 10 drivers of blended learnings are to improve ability to personalize learning, potential for individual progress, improve student engagement and motivation, shift to online state tests, need to extend the time and stretch resources, potential to extend the reach of effective teachers, ability to improve the working conditions, decrease device cost, student and parent adoption of learning apps, interest in narrowing the digital divide. And here again, I said that now we are talking about at different places, this digital divide is not helping the students to provide this online. So our main agenda should be to push the government to give this access of online teaching to the remotest corner of our country. For that, they have to spend money because there is no other alternative. We have to have a bandwidth at the remotest places of our country, and a lot amount of money should be spent right now to do that. So let us all request our governments to do that, and that will actually narrow down the digital divide. Next slide. So formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune, that Jim Rohn's famous quote. So using the blended learning, you can actually have a huge amount of overlapping things like the goal formulation, optimum mixing of online and offline medium, type of technology to use, at what time to be used, parity between the online offline content. All these things should actually give us the maximize the learning experience. Next slide. And that maximization will actually gives us an identification that technology integration versus blended learning. And here I can say education is not answer to the question. Remember, we the teachers so far, what we try to embed in the mind of our student, that by education we can answer a lot of questions. But education is a means to answer to all questions. We have to look that. So that is what we have to do. With the help of technology integration, the substitution and modification, we have to redefine and augment it. The enhancement only then going to give us to transformation. Next slide. And that transformation is actually what Albert Einstein said. It is the supreme art of the teacher to awaken joy in creative expression and knowledge. So the challenges for us, the teachers, we have to get all the supports from the management, track and monitor the progress, always get the feedbacks. The resistance from learners, we have to address that issue. Resistance to more emphasis on what to teach rather than how to teach, because this is coming very, very important right now. Next slide. I shall try to actually give you some idea about this implementing the learning process. To start small, ensure participation at levels, make it social, and that feedback from the stakeholders will help us in a very big way to actually get back to this new learning process. So I shall actually omit next few slides. So you just omit the next slide. I shall just go on, omit, because we don't have time. Just omit it, omit it. So yeah, just go back to the LMS. This is actually mentioned by the learning management system. Yes, over here you can see the LMS has got all these things. Go and have a look at it. You can see the software, the courses, the documentation, tracking, e-learning, management, education, everything is actually there in the learning management system. And this learning management system is becoming very, very important for us. Next slide. And this is actually to ensure all employees have the required qualifications. So there should be FDP, faculty development program, activities across the organization. And then there may be third-party courses or design your own. Monitor the progress of testing and assessment. That learning management system will help to introduce this new blended learning process. Next slide. And this new blended learning process, whereby you can have the face-to-face, virtual classroom, webinars, links, simulations, assessment, one-to-one coaching, as mentioned by Professor Tapan, you can see going to have a huge impact in the next 10 years. And in 20 years, we can feel the impact of it. Next slide. Next slide. These are the things. I think this is another important, but for today's seminar, I shall omit this. The virtual practical classrooms are also very important for basically the physics, chemistry, the technology, the management, for biology. These virtual practical classrooms are becoming very, very important, and there are a lot of things which are actually available. Next slide. Next slide. Amit. Amit, 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 yeah, Amit, Amit, this one also. So hereby, I just want to mention that what we started with education 1.0 to education 4.0. And what is this higher education 4.0? Here the learners as content producer and sharer. You have to access to the experts. We have to have learners as connection maker. We have to have open information. We have to have educator and resource guide. Learners as teachers. And we have to understand the learners as connectors, creators, constructivists. So diversity of network is important. The web as curriculum. All these things are the part of the MyHE. Please look at this, MyHE 4.0. I think that will be very helpful for all the faculty members of education and all the faculties. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide, please. Can I have the next slide? Next slide. So remote learning already been discussed by Professor Tapan. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Here, Professor Tapan mentioned about it. I just want to actually focus on this, that in this whole process, the teacher, student, university, everything, we have to uplift our study, isn't it? In the next slide, next slide. To the next slide. Next slide, please. Yes. So here what we could find out that the creativity, discipline, intelligence, all these things are going to be very important. Just look at it. No, previous slide, previous slide, previous slide, please. Previous slide. Our education system. We think no, next slide. Next slide. Yeah, that one. Next slide, you can go. Sorry, next slide. Where I just want to put this importance of Einstein's quote. Yeah, everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it's not right, isn't it? So that is what actually we have to find it out. We should not look at it. So this part actually I mentioned about the evolution of the national education. Yeah, so it will leave it believing that it is stupid. But for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb the tree. It's not possible. So that is how we have to look at it. There are different categories of students. And over here, this evolution of national education policy of India, which is finally announced in 2020. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. In the next slide. Can I have the next slide, please? I end with that. Next slide. Next slide. One of the best feature of this is that it covers from the preschool education to the higher education. And that is one of the beauty of this, where we can find out that from the age 3, how we're looking at this. And thereby, we have to face a lot of different types of challenges. There are a lot of questions, a lot of clarifications we have to look after, and we have to find it out. We have to actually, I'm sure the government will actually look for all the different types of debates which are going on. And then ultimately, once it is there, we can definitely get a very good feedback of the whole thing. Next. I shall end with the thank you note to everybody. I have used bibliography, these online journals and other things which are there in the list of bibliographies which I used for preparation of this PPT. And I really thank all of you. Thank you, everybody. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir, for this very enlightening discussion. In fact, I think most of us are really wondering what this new normal is going to be like. And I'm very grateful to you for clarifying this concept. Now, I'm sure most of our participants have plenty of questions to pose to both our speakers. So that I will request my colleague, Anamika Dotto, to convey the questions addressed to Dr. Basantia. Thank you.
Good evening, sir. Change to effective learning and engagement. Good evening.
Yes, you're audible, Anamika. Please go on.
The question is,
as of now,
where, sir?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. The question is, who should not access the virtual education? So what is the another way to them? The question is, who should not access the virtual education? So what is the another way to them?
See, we have to make them give them all the support so that they can access the virtual education. For that, right now, maybe not directly through this online mode, you can have an email, we are trying to develop some mobile apps, mobile app based one. All these things are going to be very, very important. And now, you know, the AI is actually, the artificial intelligence is now being utilized so that we can really get a very nice system where you don't have to depend on internet also. I'm sure that very shortly we can come out with this particular type of things.
Next question to both Anamika and Pritha. Kindly post the next question, please.
good evening, sir. One of the participants, Ronjita Da, would like to ask you, how do you think this ever widening urban and rural divide in accessing learning through the virtual mode can be best addressed at present till the government initiatives fall in place?
Hello. Hello.
Yes, Dr. Basantia, audible.
Oh, okay, madam. Now, so please ask once again because my that audio was not working. Now it is working. Okay. Hello.
Pritha, please repeat the question.
Please repeat the question.
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
Please repeat the question.
Yes, sir. how do you think this ever widening urban and rural divide in accessing learning through the virtual mode can be best addressed at present till the government initiatives fall in place?
Yes, madam, it is actually, see, urban area is taking much benefit out of that in comparison to rural area. It's okay. But slowly, it has to proceed from the urban area to rural area. You think that once Abdul Kalam told that every village should get the town facilities. Once, what are the facilities that are available in town? If we can count, then we can think about that how it will be extended to the rural area. So our effort will, if we will think that there is always a difference between rural and urban, and rural people will not get benefit, then we cannot go beyond that. So we have to accept that there is some problem in the rural area, but slowly, whatever advantage the rural area has, that advantage that urban area doesn't have. But slowly, we have to mitigate this issue. But it is not a issue that in one day or in one night we can solve. But slowly, with the radical effort of government, so it can be solved.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hello. I also want to answer that, you know, that if the real experience we could see in any particular online admission process, I'm sure also the maximum response you can get it from the rural students. They are actually applying faster than others.
Yes.
So we always think that rural are backward, but actually rural are much faster than us. The one who are actually not able to access, they are in a problem. And that's why, you know, there are several steps are already being initiated to make some kiosks in the different rural areas, so that from there the people can access these things. So a lot of different things are being already started. But the major thing is that our infrastructure has to be improved. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And another question is, for those poor students who do not have a smart mobile or laptop, what will they do in this virtual education system?
Madam, to me.
Okay, sir.
Hello.
You can.
Please tell the name so that I'll, okay. So, madam, that is the basic requirement. So, without the basic requirement, nobody can do anything. That means many times government may go for giving some sort of subsidy for buying the mobile or laptop. It would be, government may go for that also. So government gives some subsidy, or government may also help for buying the thing, because so far as technology based learning, this is the prerequisite. We cannot deny, we cannot overlook, and without this it cannot be possible.
Thank you, sir.
Due to paucity of time, I'm afraid we will not be able to take any more questions, but I would definitely like to thank both our speakers for their illuminating thoughts on this idea. I now request our principal, Madam Dr. Shima Chakraborty, to address this gathering and summarize and give us her thoughts on this matter.
Hello.
Ma'am, you're audible.
But my picture is not coming. Anyway, we are thankful and grateful to the two eminent speakers, Dr. Basantia and Dr. Professor Chattopadhyay, for their vivid and to the point lectures for all of us. Dr. Basantia concentrated on the history of how education system, starting from formal education, it came to distance education, open schools, and virtual education, virtual classroom, and also whereabouts of such system of education all over the world. He covered it very, very nicely, and also gave a glimpse of to the point processes and what we can gain through this virtual system of education, virtual classrooms. And from Professor Chattopadhyay, we can know now he emphasized on the completeness of teaching learning process, how it is possible very much through the virtual system of education. And he also expressed something, all of us should agree with that, that for self-education, self-study, there is nothing comparable to a virtual system of education. And we have enjoyed a lot and learned a lot from their speeches. And I think all the audience are very much happy, and especially Ishwari College with all stakeholders are very much grateful to these speakers. And I again thank our team who are arranging this such nice webinar. And we will try to go through such webinars in future also. And I think the most busy persons like the speakers today will be with us in future also. Thank you all.
Thank you, madam, for your thoughts. We are almost at the end of our webinar. So I request my colleague, Dr. Monideepa Mitro, to give us a vote of thanks. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. I'm sure all of you will agree undoubtedly that so long we have been listening to the wonderful webinar and we are enriched and enlightened throughout the discussion. Really, it was an enormous, awesome experience for all of us. Everybody's participation made this happen, and I have been entrusted with the responsibility of delivering the vote of thanks. Firstly, my sincere thanks to Dr. Jyoti Chattopadhyay, the eminent speaker, for his enlightening speech, and to Professor Basantia for his well-informative speech. Now, I would like to express our profound gratitude to our principal madam for her constant cooperation and support. I would like to thank my head of the department, Dr. Tapan, and all my faculty friends for conceiving such wonderful webinar. And also, since this is a webinar, special thanks is due for the entire technical team who led their support. Especially Sunita Kejriwal, HOD, Department of Commerce, Urpita Madhuri Shandal, HOD, Department of Computer Science, and Amit Chaudhary, Department of Computer Science, needs special mention in this case. And my all office staff, especially Subroto Kundu, Pulok Dash, and Vikram Shetty, regard special mention. I sincerely thank all the participants for joining today, and I would like to say that please fill up your feedback form, which is being provided in the YouTube chat box as well as in the Zoom chat box, and submit it within 24 hours in order to get the e-certificate to be issued within 10 days by our Professor Urpita Madhuri Shandal, HOD, Department of Computer Science. I thank you all once again, and good night and take care.
Thank you, Monidipadi. I'm sure you've all enjoyed this evening as much as we have. We look forward to your presence in all our future endeavors. I formally end this webinar. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thanks a lot to all of you. Shimar Maja Oshim Tumi.
Thank you, sir.
Ganta
Sir.
Shona Holona. Thank you. Namaskar. Namaskar, Professor Tapan.
Good night. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.